A few days ago, photos leaked online that made millions of fans do a double take. The man in the pictures was signing autographs, smiling for the camera, but something was different. The jawline, the chin, the beard. Fans everywhere asked the same question. Is that really him? This wasn't a filter. It wasn't a rumor. Real Madrid's biggest star. The kid who came out of one of Brazil's poorest favelas to become a World Cup winner and Champions League hero, had just walked out of a clinic looking like a different person. But here's what almost nobody is talking about. This transformation didn't come out of nowhere. It's the final chapter in one of the most incredible rags to riches stories in modern football, and by the end of this video, you'll understand exactly why a 26-year-old at the peak of his career decided to go under the knife. This is the story of Vinicius Jr. On July 12, 2000, in São Gonçalo, a rough, working-class city just across the bay from Rio de Janeiro, a boy named Vinicius José Pizarro de Oliveira Jr. was born. Nobody in that neighborhood could have imagined that this child would one day become one of the most famous athletes on the planet. São Gonçalo isn't the postcard version of Brazil you see in tourism ads. It's a city with high poverty rates and limited opportunities. The kind of place where football isn't just entertainment, it's survival, hope, and often the only realistic way out. At 6 years old, Vinicius' father made a decision that would change the family's future forever. He took his son to a local branch connected to Flamengo, one of Brazil's most storied football clubs. It wasn't glamorous. Young Vinicius started out playing futsal, the fast, small-sided indoor version of the game, before Flamengo's scouts noticed something special and moved him into full football training. To give him the best shot, his family made a painful sacrifice. Young Vinicius went to live with his uncle, whose home was closer to Flamengo's academy. Think about that for a second, a small child, separated from his immediate household. Also, he could chase a dream that had no guarantees attached to it. By 2010, after impressing in trials, Vinicius officially joined Flamengo's youth academy. He grinded through the ranks for years, and the results started to show at the international youth level. A South American U15 title in 2015, and a South American U17 championship in 2017, where he also picked up the tournament's Best Player award. Then came the moment that changed everything. In May 2017, at just 16 years old, Vinicius made his professional debut for Flamengo's first team in Brazil's top league. A few months later, he scored his first professional goal. Then, incredibly, he scored again just 30 seconds after coming on as a substitute. Still only 17 years old, scouts across Europe were watching, and one club moved fast. Just 10 days after his senior debut, Vinicius signed a pre-contract agreement with Real Madrid, one of the biggest, richest, most successful football clubs in the entire world. The catch? He was still a minor, so the deal would only officially activate once he turned 18. When it did, Real Madrid paid a transfer fee, reported at around 45 million euros for a teenager who had barely played a full season of senior football. It was one of the most expensive teenage transfers in football history at the time. He arrived in Madrid in 2018 as Brazilian football's most hyped prospect, a label that comes with enormous pressure. Early on, that pressure showed. Vinicius was fast, skillful, and fearless. But for his first couple of seasons, critics hammered him constantly for one thing: he couldn't finish. He'd glide past 3 defenders and then blast the ball into the stands. Pundits questioned whether he'd ever be more than a highlight reel dribbler who never delivered end product. Vinicius kept his head down and kept working. The breakthrough came in the 2021-22 season. Partnered up front with veteran superstar Karim Benzema, something clicked. Vinicius finished that season with 16 goals and 21 assists, numbers that silenced almost every doubter overnight. And then came the moment that turned him from promising talent into global icon. In the 2022 UEFA Champions League final against Liverpool, it was Vinicius who scored the only goal of the match, the goal that won Real Madrid the biggest club trophy in football. The kid from São Gonçalo, who grew up without guarantees, had just scored the winning goal in the most-watched club football match on earth. That was only the beginning. Over the following seasons, Vinicius became one of the most feared attackers in world football, helping Real Madrid capture multiple La Liga titles and a second Champions League crown in 2023-24, a final in which he scored again and was named Player of the Season for the entire tournament. Along the way, he's collected an enormous trophy cabinet, multiple Spanish Super Cups, a Copa del Rey, FIFA Club World Cup titles, and constant recognition among FIFA's best players on the planet. Off the pitch, Vinicius has also become one of the most outspoken athletes in football when it comes to fighting racism, having faced repeated racist abuse from opposing fans during his time in Spain, a fight he's continued to speak out on at the highest levels of the sport. By his mid-20s, Vinicius Jr. wasn't just a footballer anymore. He was a global brand, a fashion icon, and arguably the most recognizable Brazilian athlete of his generation. Fast forward to 2026. The FIFA World Cup, the tournament every Brazilian footballer dreams about their entire life. Vinicius went in as one of the faces of the Brazilian national team, carrying the weight of a nation that lives and breathes football. Brazil's tournament run brought intense scrutiny, as it always does. And through it all, cameras and commentators zeroed in on something that had nothing to do with his footwork, his face, specifically his chin. For months, both fans online and sections of the sports media had commented, sometimes cruelly, on his profile and jawline, the kind of scrutiny that professional athletes increasingly face in the social media age, where every close-up shot gets picked apart by millions of strangers. Spain ultimately won the 2026 World Cup, beating Argentina in the final. Once the tournament dust settled and Vinicius had time to himself away from the cameras, he made a decision that would once again put him in headlines, but for a completely different reason. In July 2026, reports out of Brazil confirmed that Vinicius had undergone a chin harmonization procedure at a clinic in Goiânia, Brazil, performed by a dermatologist. According to Brazilian outlets covering the story, the technique uses dermal fillers to reshape and add definition to the facial contour, in Vinicius' case, specifically targeting his chin, the exact feature that had drawn so much online commentary during the World Cup. The procedure itself is far less invasive than people might assume when they hear the words surgery. Chin harmonization with fillers doesn't involve cutting or reconstructing bone. Instead, a practitioner injects filler material strategically to build out definition, balance facial proportions, and create a sharper, more chiseled jawline, a treatment that's become increasingly common in the world of aesthetic medicine, especially in Brazil, which has one of the largest cosmetic procedure industries on the planet. Photos following the procedure showed Vinicius with more than just a new chin. He'd also grown in a fuller beard and gotten a fresh haircut, styled by his personal barber, creating a combined transformation that made him look noticeably different from the boyish-faced teenager who'd arrived in Madrid years earlier. The reaction was instant and enormous. Photos of Vinicius signing autographs and posing with the dermatologist who performed the procedure spread rapidly across social media. Some fans barely recognized him. Others jumped straight to criticism, with plenty of people online questioning why one of the best players in the world would prioritize a cosmetic procedure. Critics argued his focus should be entirely on preparing for the new season, not altering his appearance. But look at it from another angle. Here's a man who spent years being mocked, scrutinized, and picked apart for something as simple as the shape of his face, while carrying the pressure of an entire nation's football dreams on his shoulders. Whatever your opinion on cosmetic procedures, it's hard to ignore the psychological weight that comes from being one of the most photographed faces on earth, day after day, year after year. As of now, Vinicius remains one of Real Madrid's most important players heading into a new season, still just 26 years old, with an entire prime yet to play out. His statistics continue to stack up among the best wingers in the world, and he remains a central figure for Brazil, heading into the next international cycle. What's remarkable when you step back and look at the full picture is just how far this journey has traveled. A boy from a favela in São Gonçalo, sent to live away from his own household so he could chase a football dream, transformed into a Champions League winner, a World Cup era icon, a face plastered on billboards worldwide, and now, a man confident enough to reshape even the one thing that never used to be up for debate, his own face. Whether you see the chin procedure as vanity, self-care, or simply a man taking control of how the world sees him after years of criticism, one thing is certain: Vinicius Jr. has never been afraid to evolve, on the pitch or off it. So here's the real question worth sitting with. In an era where athletes are scrutinized down to every pixel of their face, is a procedure like this really that different from getting a new haircut or a new tattoo? Or does it point to something deeper about the pressure modern superstars live under? Let me know your take in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this deep dive into Vinicius Jr.'s incredible journey, make sure to subscribe, because we're covering more untold stories behind the world's biggest football stars every single week.